Hey there, it's Shauna. I hope you're doing great. Welcome to your weekly astrology forecast for November 20th. So this week is all about rising from the ashes because this week we'll have opportunities to renew ourselves versus last week we had the new moon in Scorpio, we had a lot of Pluto action, might have been kind of intense. And so this week is a week of emerging. It's a week where you may feel like you're taking in a breath of fresh air. So I'm excited to share the astrology of this week with you, and then I have 3 tips for you to have an amazing week. So the first aspect that we have Venus making an aspect to Pluto. And so I know I just said we had Pluto last week. We have like a little tiny bit left, little more energy this week, but I think that it will not be nearly as intense as last week. So Venus is relationships. It's what we're attracted to. It's basically like how we're attracted or repulsed by something, and those polarities, and how we attach to people. So this can be romantic or platonic in all the different ways that we relate. And then Pluto is about this sense of rebirth. It's about transformation. And so I feel like this week we're at a point to where we're reflecting on maybe the relationships and the power dynamics and the shifts that needed to happen within ourselves and in relationship that came up last week, and now we're like really processing that and maybe putting that into place, or we're feeling more clear about that. The other thing that's happening that is also a shift from this, like, oh my gosh, all of this maybe intense stuff that happened around the new moon in Scorpio last week, is we have the sun moving into the sign of Sagittarius. And then around the same time, Mercury will make an aspect to Uranus. And so I know that sounds like a lot. Let's break it down. So the sun is moving from Scorpio into Sagittarius. So it's basically the spotlight of our awareness, which is the sun, is moving from a focus on Scorpio things, which is around power and investigating like the really deep truth, like tearing away all of the superficial bullshit that doesn't matter and seeing what we're left with. Like, that's Scorpio. So we're going from that over the past month into the sign of Sagittarius. And so Sagittarius is about optimism, it's about hope, it's about having faith in life, and it's much lighter than Scorpio. So this combined with the fact that Mercury, which is our mind, our thought process, is making an aspect to Uranus, which is about awakening and new ideas and kind of like light bulb moments where something just pops into your head out of nowhere. So I feel like this week is going to feel much lighter, and then especially the whole next month, of course, while the sun is moving through the sign of Scorpio. But especially this week because we have Mercury and Uranus together. And Mercury and Uranus are all about like eclectic and innovative ideas. So that's happening. The last thing that's happening this week is we have Neptune stationing direct, so it's stopping the retrograde. So Neptune, it moves very slowly, so this is a very subtle aspect, unless you have Neptune making an aspect to a personal planet in your birth chart. So Neptune, it spiritualizes things. It can connect us with a higher power, with a higher source. It connects us with ourselves, but it can also make things a little bit ambiguous and murky. So it's like the spiritual world is not super concrete, right? Like, we don't know what happens after we die. We don't know where loved ones go. We don't know, most of us don't know, like what angels look like and that kind of thing. So this is all Neptunian kind of stuff. So what this means is, and around the same time, we also have the first quarter square of the moon in the sign of Pisces. So this is like a double layer of Neptune and Pisces spiritual kind of energy, where things may feel either a little bit mystical or just a little bit confusing. So I want you to really watch how you're feeling, especially this weekend when the last quarter phase of the moon in Pisces is happening. So that's like Saturday or Sunday, depending on where you are in the world. So just notice, like, if you feel a sense of fogginess, that's okay, that's normal. I think it really depends too on if you're a person that is a Pisces, a Sagittarius, a Gemini, or a Virgo, because that means that you may be feeling this a little bit more. So that being said, I know that's a lot of information, but the overall picture of this is, I feel like from last week and especially the last month, we're moving from excavating things, like really getting into our subconscious and things that we feel very intensely and that we want to work on. And this week we're shifting our focus more into putting those things into place and to making meaning out of those things, to making meaning out of what it is that we've experienced over the past month. So that being said, I have some tips for you to really make the most of this. Tip number 1 is to write down your ideas and insights this week. So I highly recommend having like a little notepad or something in your purse or at your office, or something that you can have like even in your car. Maybe you like to take voice memos on your phone. Whatever it is, I want you to have a place where you can capture little snippets of ideas or little insights, because they may very well come this week, especially because we have Mercury and Uranus. And when they come, it's like a dream where it'll feel possibly very vivid, but then if you don't write it down, then it just kind of floats away. So that's tip number 2, to write down ideas and insights. Tip number 3 is to find your faith this week. And what I mean by that is I want you to connect with like, what does, like all of the challenges that you're having in your life, what's the purpose? Why, like where is your faith around these kinds of things? And I know this is a little bit more ambiguous. You might know exactly what the answer is, or it might take a little bit of reflection, but I think this is a great week to really make meaning out of your experiences. And that's what faith really is. Faith is knowing that there is a purpose without necessarily having to have all the facts and all of the details and having to have someone tell you exactly what something means. You just know it. And so again, that may take a little bit of reflection. So that being said, before I give you the last tip, I have a quote that I want to share with you. And so this is by J.K. Rowling, who's the author of the series of novels Harry Potter. And if you've listened to the podcast, or if you're going to listen to the podcast, she is our featured author for this podcast for the Feminine Principle. So she says, "The knowledge that you have emerged wiser and stronger from setbacks means that you are ever after secure in your ability to survive." And so I thought this was really sweet and perfect for this week, because Scorpio season is like, it's an intense time. Even if nothing dramatic happens, it may just have been, the past month may have been a time of intense feeling. And so I see this transition of Scorpio to Sagittarius as really being rooted in this deep feeling and then making meaning out of it, and taking these challenging experiences or these intense feelings and bringing ourselves out into the world in a more meaningful way. So that sounds great, right? And then tip number 3, something kind of fun and more light than what I was just talking about. I want you to read a new book this week. So find a new book at your library, Amazon, your local eclectic bookstore. And I'm suggesting that because Sagittarius energy, we have a lot of Sagittarius this week, and Neptune also to a certain extent, it's enhanced when we experience new things, and especially when we do that through travel. That's why Sagittarius is related to travel, but this can also be done just by picking up a new book and reading something that is inspiring and maybe makes you think about things in a different way, or makes you think about something that you never thought about before. So that's tip number 3, pick up a new book this week. So that is your horoscope for the week. I hope that you enjoyed this. If you did, please share it with a friend. I really like to get these messages out to as many people as possible. And then, of course, if you want to go deeper into this astrology for this week, you can listen to the podcast that I co-host with my astro friend Mel of Energetic Principles. It's called The Feminine Principle: Astrology for Authentic Living. And it's on iTunes, Podbean, and YouTube also. So I'll have the links below so that you can listen to that. It's really fun. And Yeah, and if you want to know more about how this astrology relates to you personally, you can contact me for a reading or for astrological counseling. The best way to reach me is to figure out about that is to send me an email. So I'll have my email address below. And yeah, I have the 2018 moon journal that is ready for you. So it's a moon journal that I have created that has descriptions, quotes, reflection questions, and then action items for every single new moon and full moon in the year of 2018. And I'm really excited to have it available. I'll have a link below. You can purchase that on Etsy, or if you're local, send me an email. That might be easier for local people too. So anyways, that's all for this week. Oh my gosh, I'm sending you lots of love and wishing you an amazing week. Namaste.